We have a train engineer on the phone joining us live now. His name is Robert Bregent, who joins us live. Robert, thank you so much for joining us. We want to talk to you. First of all, tell us a little bit about your background as we show these live pictures of this Amtrak train number 501 that derailed this morning. And tell us what you can about the train going around this curve, the speed and how that might have been a factor. What can you tell us?
Well, I've been watching your coverage since this morning, and I just saw the lady who said she actually saw the train leave the track as it was going around the curve. So the technical information of this was an Amtrak Cascade train. The cars are made by Talgo in Spain. We've had them for about 20 years. They're extremely reliable. This train was being pushed. As you can see in your coverage, there's an engine off to the right there. That train was being pushed. And at the other end of the train, there's what we call a cab car. That is a standard locomotive that has had the engine out of it, but the engineer can control the train when it's being pushed. So as this train was being pushed, evidently at a higher speed than required, the actual passenger cars apparently uncoupled from the lead cab engine. When that happened, the automatic air brakes set, which stopped the back engine and the rest of the train from continuing on or possibly going onto the interstate. Why the train was going at that speed could be a number of factors. The engineer could have become ill, could have become disoriented. Possibility there was an axle that broke on one of the cars. Why it was going at that speed is to be determined.
So what speed are you talking about there, Robert? Because the Amtrak website indicated the last known speed was 81 miles per hour. That sounds fast to you? Is that what you're saying?
No, that portion of the line was completely rebuilt to modern standards. Amtrak passenger trains are allowed to go 79 miles an hour. That's their standard speed. Obviously, when they come to a curve of some type, there might be a speed restriction. That is quite possible. But at this point, the important thing to note is that the equipment that was on the train, in other words, the automatic air brake, prevented from that engine that was pushing all the way across and onto the interstate. So there is a silver lining, if you can call that, with this horrible tragedy.
So you're saying the safety protocols that should have been in place were not? Is that what you're saying?
No, they were in place. It was doing, if it was doing 81, that's slightly over what the speed limit is for those trains, which is 79 miles an hour.
Even on
the automatic air brakes worked as they should, so part of the train stayed on the track, and the rear engine stopped running.
What we don't know, just to be clear, what we don't know is the last known speed, according to the website, was 81 miles per hour, but we don't know how fast the train was going when it crossed over this particular section.
Correct.
So we don't...
That is correct. At this point, there is no way that they can determine what the speed of the train was because that's in the black box, similar to what we have on aircraft. So where this 81 miles an hour fact came from, I have no idea because they have no way of checking the speed recorder.
How will they determine, based on what you see here, how will they determine what happened?
Well, obviously, eyewitnesses indicate that the train derailed, came off the track as it was going over the bridge on that curve. And this is something that will have to be determined as to what happened. Again, there's many things that could have happened. The broken axle engineer could have had a heart attack. He could have become disoriented. Several factors. That's to be determined by the National Transportation Safety Board.
Okay, and my producer is telling me in my ear that there is a sign that we've been able to see on that curve that indicates 30 mile per hour speed limit for trains. So the speed limit...
Yes, usually the signs for speed limits, there's two mileage indicators. One is for freight trains, and then at the bottom there's also a mileage indicator for Talgo trains, which is what this was. And if indeed there is a sign on that track that indicated 30 miles per hour around that curve, the train was obviously going too fast based on eyewitness reports.
Okay. Okay.
Well, both of the signs, we are told, both of those signs said 30 miles per hour. We are told in that particular spot.
Yeah, okay.
This is what we're told, both of those signs, the freight and the other sign that you're talking about. Both of those said 30, so we're going to try to get a picture of that and turn that around so that you all can see that at home.
Yeah.
So we want to keep you on the phone. Please don't go away, because give us a little of your background as a train engineer, sir, please.
Well, I I got my engineer's license 20 years ago, and I've run only freight trains. I have run some passenger trains at a rail museum in Florida, but the simple fact is the rules are the same for freights and for passengers. You have to be aware of speed restrictions on the particular line that you're traveling at, either written, verbal from the dispatcher, or via sign. And if that sign said 30 miles an hour, which seems to me an extremely reasonable speed for any train going around that curve, and it was passed by, there had to be a reason for it, and we don't know what that reason is.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, we have at the least 3 people have been killed in this crash as the NTSB heads en route, and we continue to get more information about the tracks, Joyce.
Is there anything that you'd want to add as we look at this, as those of us who are novice looking at something like this and wouldn't know what the investigators might be looking at beyond speed, beyond the curve, beyond the mileage per hour, beyond the eyewitnesses? What else can you tell us that we may not know to ask you?
Well, we're particularly very upset over this because in 1993 we opened the Amtrak Centennial Station in Olympia, and it was at that time that Talgo approached us to see if the state wanted to buy some of their trains, and we have had excellent safety record with these trains, and and I know that the Sound Transit people tested this train on this track for the last several months. Just a few days ago, I was going north on the interstate at 3 o'clock in the morning, and one of them went right over this bridge at the correct speed. They've been testing and testing and testing, so it defies logic that this would happen, particularly on the inaugural run. It's very, very tragic.
Okay.
Sir, thank you so much for your expertise and for taking the time to share with us what you know about trains and about how they should and could travel through this area. Thank you so much.